Back to Close Up. The 1st Congressional District Republican primary is going to be one of the most exciting contests to watch over the next year because it is so competitive and the stakes, the control of Congress, are so high. This morning, we're getting to connect with a former colleague in the media world who has jumped into that race. Gail Huff-Brown was a well-known journalist in Boston for many years. She's now a candidate for Congress, and she is our guest this morning on Close Up. Thank you for joining us, Gail.
Thank you.
So beyond TV, voters may also know you from your home on the Seacoast and your time campaigning around the state with your husband, Scott Brown, the former senator from Massachusetts, who also ran here. So you've seen and covered politics from the inside. What made you say, I want to step up, I want to serve, I want to run for Congress?
Well, trust me, this was the last thing I ever expected that I would do. And I am not a politician. I never want to be a politician. I certainly would never go to Washington to spend the next 10, 15, 20 years. But I got very, very concerned. First of all, it was the debt that is just out of control, the spending that is causing so much difficulty, especially regulations and taxes on our small businesses here. And I'm seeing it firsthand. The labor shortage all over the Seacoast and all over the 1st District is a major, major problem. The border crisis, watching that unfold has been absolutely tragic. Watching those families, watching what's happening there, it's awful. But it was ultimately Afghanistan and what happened there that really pushed me off the sidelines and said, I have to get in and do something because I'm tired of sitting on the couch, throwing things at the TV, complaining about what's going on, but then not doing anything about it. And so I thought, you know what? We need to make some serious changes in Washington. Washington's broken. I mean, we have a Biden-Pelosi-Pappas train wreck going on right now, pushing our country in a socialist direction, leaving our Americans behind in Afghanistan, which is inexcusable and frankly, I think criminal. I think we have a situation now where we have to stop this train before it gets any further. That's why I decided to step up.
So you define yourself as conservative, but how do you define conservative? What does it mean to be a conservative in 2021?
Conservative means a lot of different things to different people, just like, any label. I hate labels because it kind of boxes you into something. And now everywhere you go, people try to label you with something or another. But I believe in lower taxes. I believe in a, individual mandate. I believe in people having the will and the freedom to do what they want. I believe that the federal government is overreaching and shouldn't be reaching into our laws and our sovereignty here in New Hampshire. And those are some of the main things that are an issue to me.
So spending, an issue for you, obviously, that increased dramatically under former President Trump, while at the same time taxes were cut, which ballooned the national debt, which you just mentioned right there. So how is that conservative?
Well, listen. When I was in Washington 10 years ago, I worked as a journalist down in Washington for 4 years. Of course, I worked as a journalist for over 30 years. And while I was there, the national debt was $10 trillion. It's now over $28 trillion. And we can go through the succession of all the presidents, all the administrations, Democrat, Republican, and point blame all over the place. The bottom line is my granddaughter's generation is never going to be able to pay this debt back. We have a responsibility to the next generations to be much more careful. This $3.5 trillion spending package that now the Democrats are trying to ram through in reconciliation, which, by the way, is what they did with Obamacare. It's one of the little tricks that they pull in Washington. No, my feeling is that we cannot keep spending like this. We are spending on our grandkids, great-grandkids' future.
Sticking with the theme of conservatism, what about the issue of abortion? Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I'm going to go back to where I said, Adam, I hate labels. I mean, I'm a mix of both, which I think everyone probably is to some extent or another. I don't believe that there should be federally funding in abortion. I don't believe in third trimester abortions. I believe that we should do a lot more to cut the red tape, to make it easier for families to adopt, to make it easier for families to take children in who need homes. So those are a couple of the things. But the abortion debate is one that I think has been solved pretty much here in New Hampshire. Again, I believe very strongly in states' rights. And it was only recently that the governor signed into law a new abortion law here in New Hampshire, which I very much support.
So you would be upset, for instance, if the Supreme Court repealed Roe versus Wade or struck it down?
I don't know. I don't know if I would be upset at that. I think that Roe versus Wade is a law that's certainly been on the books for many, many years. And I think, once again, that the law that we have here in New Hampshire is the right one. Listen, every state has the right to pass any law they want. And whether it's doctor-assisted suicide, whether it's abortion, whether it's gun rights, whether it's marijuana. I mean, we all have the right to pass any law that we want. Again, I would not go to Washington to change any laws regarding abortion. I'm happy with the law that was recently signed in by the governor here in New Hampshire.
Let's circle back to that issue you really hammered on earlier, which is Afghanistan. Do you think that U.S. troops should still be there? Would that have been the right decision to keep a small residual force?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was irresponsible. The fact that President Biden pulled troops out before even getting the Americans out of there, again, is just way past what any American would expect. I think that, yes, the situation there is very, very tenuous. We have $80 billion worth of our military equipment, our intelligence in the hands of our enemy now. The Taliban have control of those things. All of that should have been either pulled out of there or it should have been destroyed. But to have a situation like we have right now where Americans are still there, still left behind, we have, again, our equipment in enemy hands, and now we have a Taliban essentially telling the White House what they're going to do. No, this is not okay. The public policies that are coming out of this administration are just not right for this country.
I want to touch on a few more big issues here. One of those, if you're going to be in Congress, that you'd be dealing with is the future of Social Security. What is the best way to keep Social Security solvent?
Well, I mean, listen, when I was 18 years old, I remember I learned, actually, I was just going off to college, and my father said to me, Gail, you know, in 5 years, there will be no Social Security, so you better make sure that you start saving now and putting money in IRAs because you're going to need that money when you retire. The issue of Social Security and its solvency is something that we've been trying to settle and trying to figure out for decades. I can't even begin to tell you what the solution to that is. I know that as a safety net for many elderly people, it's an important part of their retirement. It's an important part of how they support their families and put food on the table. We have to find a way to continue to be able to support the people that have paid into this system, like myself, for more than 40 years.
Do you think privatization is on the table? Would that be something you would explore or support?
I would have to do much more research into it to decide whether or not that's even viable. Yeah, I would have to do a lot more research. I am not an economist or a financial expert. I graduated from Bentley with a business degree, and I do have certainly a lot of knowledge about economy and how economies work. But that's something that would take a lot more expertise than I have.
Let's talk a little bit about the pandemic. Do you believe New Hampshire should accept more federal funding to boost the vaccination rate for the COVID-19 pandemic here in New Hampshire?
If we were to accept money from the federal government, then we'd have to accept it with no strings attached. That means that the money could be used in any way that we choose to use it here in New Hampshire to further our vaccination rate. Listen, I'm vaccinated. I encouraged everyone in my family to be vaccinated. I think it's important, but it's not the federal government's job to mandate that. You shouldn't have to pick between your livelihood and a shot. So I don't believe that the government should mandate it, but I do believe that, getting vaccinated is an important part of staying healthy and staying safe.
So if vaccine mandates are wrong for COVID-19 and adults, why are they right then for children and all of the mandated vaccinations we have already?
Well, those vaccines have been around for decades. We've seen the long-term effects of those, the long-term effects, from mumps, measles, chickenpox, et cetera. And we know that they are not dangerous. We had to, and thankfully to the Trump administration, he did it in record time with Operation Warp Speed, put together and was able to come out with effective vaccines, not just 1, 2, but 3 of them. So we are fortunate in this country that we had that kind of foresight and that we have these vaccines. But I don't think that you can compare those to what we did in terms of vaccines 40, 50 years ago, because they were based on an entirely different kind of science than what we're doing now. We honestly don't know. Now, my daughter just gave birth. She did not get the COVID vaccine while she was pregnant. Why? Because we don't have enough time yet in between a pregnancy and birth to know whether or not there are any birth defects, whether or not there are any effects on the baby. We have to be mindful that this is a brand new road we're going down. We don't know a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whether or not there will be side effects. That's the reality.
Gail Huff-Brown, thanks for joining us on Close Up. We're excited to see you out there on the campaign trail in person when more of these events start happening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.